Well, there's two folks out there in the wings. Come on in and ask a question. The water is just fine. And again, a shout out to my neighbor who may or may not be watching, is probably becoming bored to death. If we could just get some action going here in the chat. But again, this is the first one. I remember when I started a streaming radio station to Europe, it took a very long time to build an audience. It doesn't happen overnight. Yep. It does not happen overnight. Okay, still waiting. Still waiting for anybody to jump in and ask some questions. Everybody's welcome, no matter what your level of ability is with Linux and video audio creation. This is a Linux Hour question and answer. Join a live stream hosted by a warm, knowledgeable computer professional ready to answer your questions about using Linux for audio, music, and video production. New to Linux or just curious about how it works for audio, music, and video production? Drop in for friendly advice and answers to all your questions. No experience required. Anyway, this is the very first one, and a helpful friend has suggested that I move it to 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to capture more of the European audience, which is more likely to be using Linux than people on the West Coast. I thought about moving it to 3:30, maybe 4 o'clock EDT for the West Coast audience, but they're probably less likely to be using Linux than people in Europe. Anyway, I see a couple lurkers out there. Come on in and ask a question. Don't be shy. Nobody's going to bite. And if my neighbor is watching out there, a shout out to my neighbor. I'm looking forward to hearing how a report about the audio and the video quality. Oh boy. Well, I'm still waiting for that first question here in the chat. So come on in, make yourself at home, and this will be a weekly program. Most likely going to move it to Saturday. I can't do Sundays because Sunday I'm busy. Sunday and Monday I'm busy doing audio production, so we can't do it on Sunday, but we'll probably move it to Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Okay, so one person left and there's one lurker out there. It could be they're just watching and they don't have a application where they can actually type here in the chat window. Well, another person just came on in. Come on in, make yourself at home. Ask a question, don't be shy. Everybody's welcome. No experience with Linux required. Come on in and ask a question. Okay, we're about 15 minutes in. No questions have been asked yet. This is the very first episode. This will be a weekly program. More than likely moving to Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to accommodate more of the European Linux users. Got a couple lurkers out there. Come on in. Just keep it safe for work. Heck, if you want to, just ask about how the weather is today here in Kingsport. It's a very beautiful 76 degrees, 45% relative humidity. The wind is at the west at 4.6 miles per hour. The dew point is 53 degrees Fahrenheit, and it feels like 76. It feels like beautiful. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much. Everything's good, audio good, okay, because some streamers have problems with audio. That is fantastic. Okay. Thank you so much for being able to jump in and make a comment there. Why do I prefer Linux? Well, it's license free. It's free to download and use. You don't need license keys. Everything's very easy to install. Whereas Windows, you have to jump through a lot of questions and everything. And so those are the big reasons, okay? If you don't want to pay a lot of license fees for software, like you're a frugal person, you're a frugalesky. Hey, come on in. Come on in there, Mark, and ask a question. You're a Linux guy. Oh, this is great. Thank you for showing up. That is so wonderful. I was just explaining to Sheila about how great Linux is. And the other thing, you can use Linux on older computers. Yes, you're a longer timer than me. You were over in North Carolina doing it when I was still with Windows 7. And that's great. You made it there, Mark. So anyway, the problem with Windows is every time there's a big new version that comes out, you have to buy a new computer. And Linux, you can use it on older computers. That's another huge advantage of Linux. Yeah. You can use it on computers that are obsolete for Windows. So it makes your computers last longer. Well, Marks, what's going on? You know, I was thinking about you today because I ran across, you ready for this? I have a full set of Windows XP drivers for that computer that I sent you that broke. And I said, oh my gosh, I had no idea I still had these. I mean, it's a full set of video, CPU, everything, a driver set to run Windows XP on that that last computer I sent you. We still need to find out why that computer died after the update like that. I'm sure the computer would still work. Yeah, so did you remove the hard drive, even all the hard drives out of that computer, and it still wouldn't boot to the BIOS? Because that's the problem I had with the one in here that got nuked by that update in System 76. It wasn't until I took the hard drive out of the computer that it was able to boot again. Oh man, I wish we were closer. I could just jump on over and fiddle with it. And I've got plenty of those batteries for the motherboard. I just checked in my drawer. I've got like 4 of them. I was hoping a couple other people from Debbie and Off Topic would jump in here today, but they didn't. Yeah, let me go get one. I'll be right back. Hold the channel for me. I'll be right back. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, here are the batteries. It's called a CR 2032, and I've even got more of them here. There's a pair. Yeah. Hey, hello, Jess. Welcome. Welcome to the chat here. Great to have you with us. Well, Mark, try taking out the hard drive, the boot hard drive, which would be that SSD, the Pro SSD. Try taking that one out and see if it boots. Yeah, reboot. Do a hard power reboot, a hard reset, and see if that makes a difference. And then if it doesn't, it could be you need one of these, a new battery, because these last anywhere from 6 to 8 years. Okay. Well, we're going to do some live real-time troubleshooting here with hardware. Hello, Jess. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and do you have any questions here about Linux today? No experience required about Linux. Well, anyway, just to keep things going here, I use Linux for music recording, music mixing, music production. I also use it for video. I download the video from the cameras, and then I do the video editing. Then I upload it to YouTube. Okay, you're from the Discord. Okay. What are the reasons to switch for Linux? Man, that is a loaded question. Well, first of all, Linux isn't for everybody. But the beauty about Linux is it keeps your computers from becoming obsolete. You know, every few generations of Windows, like when you went from Windows 8 to Windows 10, you needed new computers. When you go from Windows 10 to Windows 11, you need a new computer, especially coming up here with Windows 12. The other thing is Linux is free to use. You just download it, you learn a little bit about it, and then you install it off of a USB drive. I don't have a flash drive right here in the room with me. You just plug that flash drive into your computer and you reboot your computer and you hit F10 for the BIOS, and then you go to the boot menu and you boot off that USB drive. Another advantage of Linux is you can try it before you even install it on your operating system. So if you just want to try and see what Linux looks like, you can boot off that USB drive and go into what's called a live session and check it out. Okay. Other reasons to switch for Linux, there are no licensing fees for software. Okay. There are no keys like when you install software on a Microsoft computer. Like if you install Office, you have to enter in that 24-digit key. There are no keys in Linux. You just install it and you start using it. So if you have like 3 or 4 computers and you have to manage those computers, or what if you're managing computers for an entire school, for example, and you have to create an image and everything. Linux is okay. Another reason to use Linux is easier to deploy. Yeah. Any other questions, Jess? Come on in, step right up. I see we have 4 people here in the channel. Let's get the questions going. This is the very first program. And just to let everybody know, it's probably moving to Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time so that more of our European friends can join in. The reason it was scheduled here at 2:30 was to catch a few people off the Pacific Coast, but they're really probably not as interested in Linux as people in Europe are, because people in Europe are trying to get away from the Microsoft hook. Okay. Under Linux, you've got many different drawing and drafting programs. You've got FreeCAD for drafting. You've got, if you want to do something where you can use a touchpad to do some drawing, a drawing pad. You've got Krita, Krita. You've got GIMP if you want to retouch pictures. You've got something called that's similar to Lightroom. Basically, I'm going to bring this up here. You've got something called Darktable, which is similar to Lightroom. So basically, under Linux, you have almost an equivalent of everything you've got in Windows, but you have to find out which one works better for you. And another drawing program is something called Inkscape. And then if you like to do desktop publishing, which people don't do anymore, there's another program to do that. And I don't have that one particularly loaded, because actually the Office program called LibreOffice. Okay, I'll get to that. I'll get to that question. LibreOffice really is so powerful that you don't need a separate desktop. You can use something called Impress to do the same thing. LibreOffice Impress. Okay. Does Linux support programs from Windows as well? Okay, the answer to your question is most of the time. Mostly. MOS, mostly. Let me just type that. Okay. There are two ways to do it. There's a program called Wine, W-I-N-E. Okay. And then there's another way to do it called a virtual machine. I'm going to type this out. Okay. So there are two ways to address that problem. One of them is called Wine. You install it. Okay. And it provides a make-believe environment that's kind of complicated. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to use Wine plus Winetricks. Okay. Winetricks is a front end for Wine. So you can play games, you can run some of the Microsoft Office applications. You just install it like you normally do off the DVD or however you install your particular Office. You install it in there, and it's an emulator. Okay, that's right. Then the other way to do it, like I play games and run Windows XP software, music software that's abandonware. Software is 20 years old. It's been abandoned. I use what's called a virtual machine. And let me bring that up and I'll show you all here on the screen just how it looks. It's beautiful. Okay. So I can basically run a operating system that's dead. I can still run it today. Here, I'll show you. All right. So let me do a show to desktop. Yeah. Just a moment. There we go, folks. And if we want to play a real old school game, everybody remember pinball? Yeah, with Space Cadets. But this is the game that I really like, is this program for Windows 95. It's a game. And it's Fury 3. Tamp that window down a little bit. Yeah. And then the beauty of it is I can play that game with a controller that this game was never developed to use. Okay, because yeah, I can play it with this. Yeah. Okay. How about that? Yeah, at the time, the only game controllers that would work on Windows XP were ones that you plugged in that 13-pin. You plugged it into the game card. That's how you accessed the game controller. It was on your sound card. So we're going to go ahead and turn off that there. Whoops, hit the wrong button. So the beauty is I don't have to leave my operating system. It's an operating system inside an operating system, and then I can transfer files back and forth. That's another problem. Linux uses its own file system, and Windows uses its own file system. And when you want to transfer data, okay, you've got it. It's difficult because Windows won't read the data off the Linux partition. But with using the virtual machine, you can just drag the data across. It takes care of all of that for you, the two different file systems. Okay. Man, that's a good question. Okay. Jess, it'd be great. We have 5 people here. Anybody else would like to ask questions about Linux? It doesn't matter what your ability level is, no experience required. Come on in. The water is fine. Yeah, so Mark, since you're here with us, what are some of the other alternatives to run? The other problem with Windows and Linux is they use completely different file systems. So you have to have one on one partition and one on the other. Another way is to dual boot a system where you still have your Windows and everything, but then when you want to run Linux, when a boot menu comes up, when you turn the computer on and you can boot into Windows or boot into Linux. Now with Linux, you can install a package that will allow you to read the Windows file system. So when you're in Linux, you can copy files from Windows into Linux. Okay. Right. But the problem is when you're in Windows, it's hard to get that data over. So what you can do is you can create a FAT32 partition to share data between the 2 operating systems seamlessly. That's a solution to that problem. It's just create a data share partition FAT32, which is horribly unreliable. FAT32 is trouble. Well, thank you so much for the like. I'm not sure who gave the like there, but it's much appreciated. This is the first time out here with the Linux Hour. Well, Jess, it was great to have you with us. Please ask another question. And so again, just those who participate know that this is the first time out. Probably going to be moving this to 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Saturday, so more of the Eastern European friends can join, not Eastern European, so more that our friends in the East and Europe can join us. Well, Marks, what is your take on the time change? Do you like it just the way it is, or should we move it? Let's take a vote. The question is generally yes. Generally it is. So you think we should stay on this time at 2:30 or maybe 3:30 on Thursday? Yeah, just to answer your question more fully, generally when you run Linux, you don't run a virus detection software. Linux is a little bit more hardened. There is malware appearing on Linux now because whenever an operating system gets more popular, it attracts hackers and never-do-gooders. That's the way our world works. People love to ruin something good. And you know, there are viruses and malware on the Mac platform as well. But on Linux, it's not as prevalent. And generally, there's a lot of security-related people who work with Linux, and they fix the kernel fairly quickly and push what's called a security update. So on all the major core software in Linux, it's continually updated with security fixes. So the answer to your question is it's generally more secure, but there are no guarantees, there are no promises in Waterworld. And welcome to anyone who just joins. Step right in. The water's friendly advice and answers to all your questions about Linux. No experience required. Step right up and ask your question. Oh yeah, I've never run an antivirus under Linux. It's never been a concern. Because see, unlike Windows, most of the major applications issue security fixes on their own. They don't wait. They'll push out a security update on the core applications in Linux. Like if I look here, I have a bunch of updates waiting because I don't like to reboot my computer. I've got a browser update. I've got some kind of streaming plugin update. I've got the GNOME XML library update for security. I've got some PDF utilities, Python, Thunderbird, TIFF, a bunch of applications with security updates. So what you've got in Linux is you have the kernel, the big K, the kernel, and then you have the core applications, and then you have the additional applications. The core applications generally come with the distribution, and those are the ones that are pretty well watched for security problems. So Jess, if you go to my YouTube site, everything you see on that channel was done in Linux. Everything. As a matter of fact, YouTube itself probably runs on Linux. For sure, some of the Microsoft servers run Linux, and then of course Facebook is all run on Linux, all of it. As a matter of fact, it's not been released to the general public, but even Google had their own version of Linux for their offices, for their own computers. Because when you're talking about license fees for 10,000 computers, that adds up. So even these big companies, they're watching their pennies. And Linux is much easier to deploy than Windows. Yeah. So Jess, you say you're on Discord. What server? I'm just bad remembering all the nicks and chat names. Okay, well, anybody else who just joined, feel free to step up and ask a question here. This is the very first episode of the Linux Hour, and generally the plan was to run it for about an hour, but I have no problem going over. But Mark, you think we should just stay here at 2:30 on Thursday or move to 1 o'clock on Saturday? What are the thoughts on that? So what you can always do, Jess, if you have more than one computer, or you have an old computer sitting in a closet, or maybe just a computer that a friend doesn't want anymore, you can grab it and you can download the ISO for Linux and write it to a USB drive. I never have one of those when I need one. Let me get one. I'll be right back. Ah. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, I'm a label freak, so I have mine labeled, but actually I don't even use this to install Cinnamon anymore. I've got a big 64 gigabyte, and I use this program. What's the name of it? It's fantastic for install. It'll even install Windows off a USB drive. It's a fantastic piece of software. Marks, what's the name of that? It's not Rufus, it's the other one. It has an odd name. You're going to find that at Jess in Linux that a lot of these programs have odd names because they're acronyms, like GIMP. Okay, that's an acronym for new image manipulation program. Oh my goodness. I'll find it because I've got all these in shortcuts here for software. Ventoy, Ventoy. Ventoy is like the silver bullet. Yeah, Ventoy. Don't ask you. Yeah, to install the ISO on the USB drive. Yeah, Ventoy. So what I've got in the other room, I didn't want to unplug it because it's mounted, but I've got a 64 gigabyte high-speed USB, one of these plugged into another computer in the other room that's a test computer. And so I use Ventoy, and I can select like 10 different operating systems to install, including Windows 10, Windows 11, about 13 different varieties of Linux. Yeah, Ventoy is the magic tool. Now, but Rufus has been used a lot by Windows users when they want to make the transition to boot to Linux for the first time, because Rufus is available in the Windows Store. But Ventoy is the one to use. Oh yeah, Ventoy, you can install Windows 10 and 11 off ISO right onto your computer off the USB. So welcome to anybody who just joined. Come on in, make yourself comfortable, make yourself at home. Friendly advice and answers to all your questions. No experience required here with Linux. Yeah. Well, Jess, where are you located? What part of the world? Because people are located everywhere nowadays. And I have a little clock here on my desktop because I chat with people around the world. And let me just show it here. You know, let's show some capabilities, some of the things that Linux and everything can do. Here we go. This is cool. Because normally I don't share my desktop with anybody. I'm a security person, but you can see there that since I chat with people around the world, I always like a friendly reminder about who is where. Yeah, how about that? So that sits on my desktop here, like on the wallpaper. Yeah. So are there any other questions? You know, we don't have to talk absolutely about Linux every single minute here. I'd be glad to answer other questions if you want to talk about the weather, if you want to talk about anything. Come on, man, bring it. If you have a hardware question, feel free to ask. So no luck booting that, getting that BIOS prompt there, Marks. Yeah, to comment, you have to have a Google, you have to have a YouTube account to comment in here. Yes, you need that. So we could have some lurkers on that don't have an account, because some people, especially people in the Linux world, they look, very shady, have a shady view of YouTube. Okay, we can work on that later. Well, we had 5 people here in the channel and 3 of them skedaddled on us. Yeah, see, some of the people in the Debian Off Topic channel, okay, don't have a YouTube account. They use FreeTube and these other things, so they can't comment. Okay, we'll just let him know that you have to have a YouTube account to comment in here. Unfortunately, that's the way the game is played. Wow, so everybody left. Well, it's almost an hour, so I might wrap it up here soon. I've been on here for 59 minutes and 54 seconds, and I'm not going to sit here for 3 hours, okay, because I actually do have a life, even though I'm retired. I'm not going to bring my cat here and show my furniture at my home. I have other priorities. Welcome to those who just joined. Come on in. The water is just fine. Drop in for friendly advice and answers to all your questions, and no experience required. And even if you have a question that's a little bit different than Linux, if it involves hardware or software, we'll see what we can do. I still think it's that BIOS battery, Marks, because it happened after you rebooted after an update. Yeah. And heck, you can get one of these for just a few dollars. The problem is it would cost me more to send you one than the battery itself. And B's are just to PayPal you the money to go buy one. Yeah. Because as you know, I have experience shipping things all over the country. Yes, I do. So that person in pound Linux Mint, is he or she going to be able to make it in here? I'd love to answer a question or two to anybody who'd like to ask. Okay. Well, yeah, it's a CR. They're universal in computers, every single computer. Matter of fact, some people's car remotes use them because they last a long time. No, he's Google free. Well, can you relay his question? How about that? Can he watch? As long as he can watch and you can get his question, I'll answer it. Let's do a relay. Let's do an internet relay Chat. Let's make it rock. I see somebody just joined. Feel free to come on in, make yourself comfortable. Friendly advice and answers to all your questions. No experience required. So we're coming up on the 1 hour mark. Okay, all right. Well, Mark, what do you think? Do you think we should stay at 2:30 Thursday afternoon, or should we move to Saturday at 1? What do you think? I think I'd like to keep it on Thursday, personally. And that way people after work in Europe can come on in and ask us questions. Go to Saturday. Go to Saturday. Okay. But yeah, it can never be on. It can never be on a Sunday. I just have too many balls in the air on Sunday. That's when I'm prepping for that radio program. For those who don't know, along with the YouTube site, I also produce a weekly radio program that's played here on a local FM radio station, and that's done in Linux too. Everything I do is done in Linux. Yeah, see, Saturday is a sports day, especially with football season coming up. We may just stay with Thursday. Thursday, dead day. How about that? Yeah, the Big Band Hour is the name of the program on WCSK. I'll type it out. The Big Band Hour. Well, there's only 3 people here on the channel. Welcome to the person who just joined. Friendly advice and answers to all your questions. No experience required. Well, they left. I guess they didn't like the temperature of the water. Okay, WCSK Big Band Hour. Now, this isn't your kind of music there, Marks, but the thing is, you never know who's going to be watching this on a replay, because once the stream is ended, it's saved on my YouTube channel. So anybody can come by and watch what was talked about, unless I delete it. And welcome to who just joined us. Please come on in. It's friendly advice and answers to all your questions. No experience required. So that's the name of the show there, Marks. And they play it 3 times a week. You said, well, can you add a caller? You mean a caller on a phone? Well, I guess if somebody called me on my phone, yeah, you could do that, and I could give an answer over the YouTube. I still have a phone. I'm not that cheap. This is my last flip phone ever, because I bought this because my other phone, the hinge, it was about to break in 2 pieces. The hinge is already broken on one side. Well, the thing is that I'm going to New York here, hopefully later this fall. And I said, well, the last thing I want to do right now is learn how to use a smartphone before I go on this trip. But yeah, this will be my last one. And it's a beautiful frosted ruby red, like the ruby slippers. Oh, you mean, can you call me in the stream? I don't think it allows that. I don't think so. You know, honestly, this is my first one. Okay, it shows you're the only participant right now. I guess there's other people watching, but they're not participating in the channel. Let me see here. I will have to study that. Matter of fact, I can give you an answer right now. Okay, well, I can't. Okay, I can share the mic after all. Did I lose the audio there, Marks? Okay, I think I killed the audio because I tried to share it with another application here. Let me see if I'm back. 1, 2. Can you hear me? Darn it. The only way to do it is to restart the stream. Well, this is a good time to call it a day. Okay, the audio did come back. Oh, that's great news. I didn't have to restart the stream to grab the audio off the device. I'll tell you, isn't Linux beautiful? People don't know what they're missing. They really don't. So is the audio clear like it was before, or is it a half step down in volume? I mean, is it loud and clear? That's great. That is great news, because what I tried to do was to do a voice lookup to answer your question. Okay, I think we could do it if I was using OBS. Okay, if I was streaming from OBS to YouTube, okay, which I do have OBS. But in this case, I'm streaming from my fancy webcam, okay, directly to YouTube. So in that case, I probably can't, but I probably could if I was streaming to YouTube in OBS Studio. And that's what we do here. We answer questions about Linux. Well, I see there are 5 people out there. Jump on in. Feel free to ask any question about Linux. Your ability level doesn't matter. This is a judgment-free zone here. Friendly answers and advice to all your questions. No experience required. Come on in and ask your question, because we're about to wrap this up. Okay, that's great that the audio came back, because some people have to restart their stream to grab the audio. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and join # Linux. And whoever, all right, Linux Mint. And whoever has a question can ask me right here on IRC, and then I'll give you an answer here on YouTube. How about that? I'm flexible. So if someone had, and I need software I can dictate, I cannot type. Someone had a question. Okay. All right, I just went ahead and put the comment there in # Linux Mint. Well, at Hewlett Packard, we called it ##. Then it's also known as a hashtag as well. Okay. Well, just a little bit about that is I've been working with computers since I was, I think, 10 years old, and I am 66. So I've been working with computers a very long time because my father used early computers for his chemical consulting business. So I was exposed to computers at an early age in his office. And but I have a problem with the dexterity in my fingers, and I was actually tested in that I tested a D- in dexterity. And until recently, where you could speak into your cell phone or speak into a search, a lot of times I just use a voice search on a search engine. But I never let that stop me from being successful in computing, because for decades the only way to interact with a computer was a keyboard, and then the mouse came along, okay, and then you had the WIMP. Yeah, that's the Windows interface with the mouse and everything. And so, well, I see we have 4 people out there. If anybody has a question, come on in. The water's fine. This is friendly advice and answers to all your questions. You don't even have to ask a question about Linux if you don't want to. You can just, if you're curious about what this live stream is about, if you have a question about computers in general, I'm sure somebody here can give you an answer. Yeah, Windows interface mouse pointer. I remember the first mouse on the AT&T computer on the monochrome green screen. Yeah, with the serial interface. Well, that was a big deal to have a mouse on your computer. And this is what, 1984. And then, of course, the Macintosh. I used the very first Macintosh that came out with this Motorola 68,000 processor. Oh, man, that was something. Little bitty 9-inch monochrome screen. It's like looking through a submarine port or hole. Okay, well, there were no further questions. Last call for any questions about Linux, computing, or just what's going on here in Kingsport, my YouTube channel. Well, we had 4 people and then somebody left. I guess a lot of people are just dropping by to see what the heck is going on in here. Well, I put a comment out there in the Linux Mint channel, didn't hear anything. Didn't get any response. I did check the IRC chat. Let's see, let me check Debbie and Off Topic. Okay. There's no questions in Debbie, and there's no questions in Linux Mint. Pound Linux Mint. The pound sign, that's what we called it at HP. We never called it a hashtag, because when you boot into HPUX, the prompt is a pound sign. Yeah. Well, see, Marks, that's how I took to Linux like a duck to water, because I had been working in HPUX, which is Unix. And I knew the file system, home and all that, and sys and all the directory structure is similar. And the beauty about a Unix is you can install. We did network installs on those servers. We never used hard drives. We never used flash drives. We do a net boot install, a boot off the network and install the operating system. Okay, I should be seeing one. Okay, I'd be glad to wait a few more minutes while some people's got their thoughts together for the questions here. I see Jeremy 31 is out there. Jer. Yeah, I would be more than happy to wait a few more minutes for that last question. It's been an hour and 18, but I started about 10 minutes early just to get the camera warmed up. I have him ignored is your comment. Okay, well, let's look at that ignore list. Oh, Justy was on ignore. I don't know why. Let's change that. Okay. Was Justy the one that had the question? Just ask him to, if you hit your up arrow key, it'll repeat what you just typed. Just up arrow and enter on Internet Relay Chat. Gosh, I hate ignore. I had no idea I had those people still. I never like to block people, and I never like to have people on an ignore list. Okay. All right. Yeah, I really should clear that list. Okay, Justy asked the question. Okay, why do you think it's a security error? That's a normal message to see. So what I do is when I'm on a desktop and I don't want to see that message, I turn the blue service off. I disable it. Let me look in my code here to prevent that message because I install Linux on 7 different computers here. And so what I do is on the computers that I know are desktops without a Bluetooth device, which would be a Wi-Fi. Almost all Wi-Fi chips now have a Bluetooth transceiver. Yeah. So here's the kicker. All right, you execute that command and then you execute that command there. And that will take care of it. You'll never see that message again. Okay, you said you disabled it using system control. I did that already, and you're still seeing it in the security logs. Okay, well, let's do this. I will make a note, okay? Because I take careful notes, and I'll answer it on our next show. Oh, hello there. Thank you so much for joining. Do you have any questions today? I don't know how to pronounce your name. I apologize for my lack of Middle Eastern name etiquette. My apologies. Feel free to ask any questions you have, no experience required. And thank you very much, Masab, for dropping in on our show here today. Okay, but we will have an answer. Musayab. Okay. Thank you so much for helping me out. I've never been to the Middle East, and I've never forced myself to learn anything about Middle Eastern pronunciations or anything like that. You know, before I went to Germany and everything, I tried a little bit to learn some of the German language. I've been to Germany 3 times, but gosh, that was so long ago, I've forgotten a lot of the German phrases and everything again. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you have any questions here today about Linux? Today, we're just answering just about any questions about Linux, operating systems, open source. Yeah, we'll have an answer here next week. And I've captured your question there, Justy, and we'll get to it. Okay. We'll find out exactly how to fix that. It's also common, even if you turn that off, you're still going to see some kind of Bluetooth messages, because there might be some other Bluetooth related services, or there might be that are calling for that, but we'll get it figured out. You're new to IT in general. Oh, great. Oh, that's great that you could join us. Well, you're new to IT in general. If you've got any questions about Linux, love to answer them. And if you could come back next week, I think we're going to stick to this time on Thursday, because some people have said Saturday, college football and sports are going to start here in the fall on Saturday. We can't do Sunday or Monday because I'm busy with sound production on those 2 days. Yeah, I know. Yeah, but you're still going to get some issues with Bluetooth, because Bluetooth is a very popular thing, and there are other services that might be making calls to your Bluetooth hardware. I know on some computers I've had to put 4 different lines to kill the Bluetooth. See, there's another one here. Okay. There are 2 more lines, all right. Those are commented out because they're not used on every computer that has Bluetooth. But trust me, Justy, we will have an answer next week, no matter what it takes. That's how I roll. Yeah. Okay. Well, 22.2 hasn't had an official release yet. It's still in beta. There was another set of beta ISOs that were released this morning. Yeah, you know, the whole situation with computing in general, I've seen in the old days before the internet became popular, there were these database books I would buy about database programming. They were the thickness of a small phone book, like 700 pages. You know, you can read all of that, but there's nothing like hands-on learning, hands-on. And so the best way to practice Linux, you want to practice. There are many different ways you can practice writing scripting, bash, bash. Let me type that out. Okay. By the way, that's yeah, I think that stands for Born Again Shell. There's bash scripting. You can stick to one particular distribution and learn it inside out, get under the hood, learn learn how to tinker with the theming. Okay. The theme in some distributions that's controlled by cascading style sheets, CSS. You can install and uninstall different programs and learn how that affects your entire your stack. Your base is the base is what comes off the USB when you install it the first time, and then you start stacking different applications and see which ones may conflict each other. Yeah, the command line. It's important to know that. A lot of newcomers from the Windows side, they avoid that, and I understand that. That's why Linux Mint is such a valuable tool, because the beauty about Linux Mint is you can do everything you need without the command line. Okay, all right. And there's a great source. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It allows you to look at other people's code and see how people are fixing things that are broken. Yeah, that's a good tool too. A language that's popular in Linux, I'm not encouraging you to learn it, but I'm just giving it for your information. Okay. That's a very, okay. Python is, but I'm not too keen on Python because it's not a low, I love low level, low level situations, I mean, you've got assembly, and then beyond that, you've got C++. And I just love to stay in the C++ zone and stay away from these interpretive languages that run 10, 20 times slower. Well, I tell you, that's where the money is, my friend. If you're looking to make money in computing, learn C++. A lot of people are going to this new thing called Rust, because Rust has memory management that C++ to catch out of bound calls in memory. A lot of people are going to Rust, but I'm a big believer in C++. Huge. Well, see, back in the computer days, the early days, there was something called ASM, and then you compiled it to a compile. Whoops. Okay, you compiled it to a compile. And you never see those anymore, because everything went to an EXE, which is C++. Okay, is compiled to an EXE. Really? To forget C++? Oh, man. Okay. Well, that's an interesting interpretation. But see, that's the beauty. That's what this live is for to discuss things. It's a friendly environment. There are no judgments here. Interesting. Well, like I said, Python, it runs like inside the distro, inside of everything. Well, I'm just giving you one opinion. The C++ is important for drivers. It's important for a lot of things. And I'll tell you what, my experience in computing, the people who make the big money and the people who are really desirable is the people who can write drivers for operating systems. Those are the most desirable people in the universe. And I don't know what your skill level is. I don't know, because you never know who chatting with over the internet. Okay. And that's why I say this is a judgment-free zone. But you might be one of the brightest people out there, man. And if you can write drivers, you just punch your golden ticket. But I'm not saying you should do that. I'm using that as an example. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's still a lot of C++ code out there. It's a foundation in any operating system. But it depends on what you want to do. If you want to just manage a bunch of servers, Python is fine. If you want to write installation programs to install images and do manipulation of drives and drive stacks and remote storage, Python is just fine to do that. It really depends on the task. If it's low level, you want to stick to C++. But like I said, if you just want to write, say like you want to write you want to write an application to manage remote storage, you can do that in Python. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that would be fine. Yeah, Python would be the way to go. If you want to write a console, that's the word I was looking for, a console to manage remote storage, then Python would be a way to go. Absolutely. We have 6 people out there. Is there anybody else who'd like to ask a question before we go ahead and close it for the day? And thank you for dropping in. And please join us next week at this time. And if you have any questions, just write them down. And then when you jump in here next week, you can ask. Likewise, I'm going to follow up here with Justy's question about the Bluetooth get managed objects, a failed error message. It's the same time as now. Let's see, it's going to be, we're going to shoot for Thursdays, okay? 2:30 PM EDT. And thank you for being a guest today and ask a question and participate. That's great. Hey, we have 6 people out there on the channel. Is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question? Feel free. It doesn't matter what your ability level is here in Linux or computing in general. All your questions will be answered. No experience required. Gosh, there's 6 people out there. I can't believe it. We need some participants, though. Okay, so Justy has a question. I thought you were older than 66. Let me tell you, I don't want to be older than right where I'm at now, because this body of mine is falling apart, and I'm doing everything I can to keep it. I work out 3 times a day. I'm on a special diet called Triple S. No salt, no sugars, no starches. I'm trying to lose weight. I have 2 knees with no cartilage in either knee. Okay. So imagine trying to lose weight if you can't run, you can't really hike. I hike short distances. Okay. So, and then I recently had a heart procedure to correct it was probably congenital to correct a heart issue that I've probably been having for the last 20 years and was congenital. They closed off some veins. Okay. That was very scary, by the way. And I had a short story to tell about that. When I came to in the recovery room and then they put me in the hospital room, I had on my cell phone people to call, but there was one person I wanted to call who I didn't have their number. And that's when I began to suspect that things weren't copacetic with that person. Yep. I thought you were older than 66. Believe me, I don't want to be a day older than I really am. I'd love to answer more questions, so jump on in and ask before we close the live stream, because what I don't want to do is to be on here for 3 hours. I don't want to show the cat, the furniture, any other part of my life. We just want to keep it to this window. But you are free to ask about what's in that display case over there. Okay, what I'm going to do here. Okay, I would be more than happy to answer that. Okay, my background in IT is I did database programming with an early program called DBase. I did that for many years because small businesses needed software that was tailored just for their business. And I did that for 10 years. I had my own business writing database software and then building the LAN, the local area network, and the server and the workstations. So I had a complete solution. All right. I did electronic data interface, EDI, for billing. I did invoicing. I wrote custom invoicing programs. You know, back then QuickBooks couldn't do all the things it does today. And take like there was this, for all of these companies, I wrote database software delivery companies, retail companies. Heck, you know what? I wrote a fraud prevention database for Toys R Us. How about that? That was one of my wins. So I've been around the horn when it comes to writing custom software. I did that for 10 years. And then we had the .com bust in 2000. Okay. Because I had gotten into website development because that was hot. That was red hot. You're talking billings of $14,000 a month. It was a great business, but then it blew up. It collapsed. And I was competing with people who were laid off, who were willing to do website development for $12 an hour. I said, I can't compete with that. I said, I pay my employees $12 an hour. Okay. So I closed it, and then I went to work for Hewlett Packard as a contractor. And then after 2 contracts, I was hired as a full-time person. So my background with Linux is it comes from Unix, HPUX. And then after I left HP in 2014, I got interested in Linux and said, oh man, I've done all this before with HP. And then I just love Linux. I love it. So that's my situation. But I had my first PC back in 1984, and I bought it to manage a hockey league, if you can believe that, because they needed a membership database. So there were no membership databases for ice hockey leagues. So I wrote one. Okay, we have 5 people. And thank you very much for the thumbs up. And I would love to answer a couple more questions. Matter of fact, there's a beautiful hockey jersey behind me, because I also played ice hockey for many years. And that's what the jersey is about. That is a Houston Aeros warm-up jersey. Isn't it beautiful? I have other ones, but I can only display them one at a time. Okay, one more question, and then we're going to go ahead and close it, end the stream here, folks. And I keep forgetting, but I'm going to completely flush my ignore list for internet relay chat. I'm going to clear it. Are you sure you want to remove? Because I don't believe in blocking or ignore, really, on social media. It shouldn't be necessary. All right. I just hate to close the live stream while we have 4 people still out there. And thank you for the thumbs up. That is very much appreciated. This is the very first one, by the way. So you've been a part of something special. All right, folks, one more question. What is your opinion on WSL2, which I think is a Windows subsystem Linux, I believe is what that acronym stands for? You know, I'm a big believer of a VM, and let me bring a VM up here for you. I'll show you. I'll show you something special that you can't do in WSL2. I'm going to share my desktop here. Okay. What I love about virtual machines is you can do things in a virtual machine. You can destroy everything and then you can back up your virtual machine image, which is generally what I do. Okay. And so if I destroy something, I just restore, I just copy back the virtual machine image. Yeah, this is a dead operating system. Okay. I think a VM is a much better approach to business. That's just my opinion, since you did ask. I thought I would volunteer that. A VM is magic. It's an operating system inside of an operating system. Yeah, it was. So inside a VM, you can run Windows. You can run different version of Windows for testing code. You can run Windows 7. Okay. Windows 10. And then you can run Linux. You can run like 3 or 4 different distributions of Linux and test your code. It's great. Now, the one that I use is Oracle VM, but there are others out there, but that's the one that I use. Yeah. And for the life of me, I can't remember the other popular one. What is it there, Marks? There's Oracle, and then there's that other, VMware. That's the other big one. But see, the beauty, and generally you can use VMware and Oracle for free for personal use, which in your case would be personal learning at home, right? So you should be able to get a license without having to pay for it. Of course, with Linux, you can run Oracle with no license period because it's included in the distribution packages and the repository packages. So you don't even need a license to use Oracle VM. Okay. Well, you can still use that in Linux you just install it. You don't have to have a key or anything. We're not doing lock picking here, folks. There are no keys. We're into no keys. Only Alicia keys. Well, I sincerely appreciate everybody's participation and also those folks who might be watching this replay. But we do need to close it out here. It's been an hour, 47 and 50 some odd minutes. Thank you very much for your participation, and I will be back next week. Goodbye, everyone.